how you decided to put out your pricing and what you're charging.
Sometimes I charge them. I'm embarrassed to say what I charge them, and they're like, "Oh yeah, sure." So I'm like, "Hey, well, you know."
Continuing to organically grow the exact same way you've been doing, and where do you see Gentle Heart Transportation going in the next half year, the next year?
Well, I have a couple of things in the cooker that might precipitate me getting like another van very soon, which is might be hard. But for example, some facilities ask me to get a contract to do all of their rides or something like that because they like you so much. So I have that opportunity, and there's another area which we really haven't talked about is when you do the brokers, obviously they're doing Medicaid, a lot of Medicaid clients. There is something out there also that I got a call, and the lady needs to have people transported to their school there for kids that are on Medicaid that are disabled. And it pays really well, but you have to go jump through a lot of hoops. So I'm doing the hoop jumping right now. But where I see organically, I'm still going to build in Gainesville, but my next challenge is the next closest cities are at least 45 minutes to an hour south and north, like Jacksonville and Orlando. So my next challenge is I can see myself 6 months definitely having another van. And I like the full-size vans. I don't like the minivans because the full-size ones, there's just plenty of room and you can just do everything. And honestly, the price is not that different when you get like one of those big Fords or I'm using the Ram ProMaster 2500 than the minivans. But I can see myself definitely 6 months, another van, in a year, at least I think 2 more, because at that point, I think I will have kind of tapped out here a little bit. And then I want to expand because I'm getting a lot of calls and requests from those areas. And I tell the people I'm far away, and sometimes I charge them. I'm embarrassed to say what I charge them. And they're like, "Oh yeah, sure." So I'm like, "Hey, well, you know." That is something that you have to get used to. In the beginning, you're kind of gun shy as what to charge, and the more you get into it, the more you kind of get the ebb and flow of how much you think you can get, how much you can charge for this type trip.
Okay, tell me about that. Like, how did that evolve, especially over the last half year, about how you decided to put out your pricing and what you're charging?
Well, initially my pricing I considered it too low. I had this base that I was going on. I looked online and said, okay, these are the national prices. And I started doing them, and I said to myself, and I still price shopped, and I realized all my competitors were charging more. And so you can be competitive without being underpriced because especially in Florida, your insurance costs are just astronomical, right? Insurance and payroll are always your two biggest expenses. And so slowly but surely, you just the next time somebody calls, you raise the price $10, and you're like, no resistance. I was told by a very smart guy that if somebody doesn't complain about the price, you're not charging enough. Now, I come from the jewelry business. Like I grew up, my dad was a jeweler, so there's a lot of, no price is ever final. And there are times where I cut the price because I just want to fill the spot. And the other philosophy is a half a loaf of bread is better than no loaf. So I'd rather get a little bit of money than nothing, right? But that's how you start. It's like every time you do it, you charge a little bit more until you kind of see where your equilibrium is. And
do you feel like you've reached that equilibrium yet?
I know I'm still below most of my competitors, but I'm at a spot where I'm comfortable with that. You need to have perceived value. right? So for what I charge, and then I cover the stretcher, and everything is nice, and my vans are immaculate. They don't. I bought foam that I just put, like, with the slide boards. I hated that squeaking noise, so I have like foam dampeners everywhere. So when people ride in the vans, it's not really noisy. It's clean. So I want that to be, you get more than what you expect. That's where. So that's why I'm keeping the prices right now where they are. So.
Okay, especially as you're continuing to build the brand and
Yes.
get business,
Yes.
get yourself out there.
Yes, exactly.
Bruce, these insights and perspective are actually such gold for so much of the audience that are looking to start up or level up their game in NEMT, because we're all sort of in these silos and everyone wants to know the tips and tricks that everyone else is using to grow their business. You've covered a lot of gems. Anything else that you could sort of like point out as something really unexpected that you learned from doing the business over the last year, half year, that you feel like would be really like something that would be good for people to know, that you only learn from actually running?
No, for example, I didn't know like that oxygen would be used so commonly in a van, because I have a neighbor across the street. He's an ER doctor, and he said, you can't get oxygen. You need a prescription for oxygen. And I was confused. I said, really? And so when I first started, I didn't have oxygen in the van, and that was a negative. And finally, I figured out, and it took a lot of digging, that I took some online course, and then I had to take a course basically that scuba divers take. I had to drive to Fort Lauderdale, to Jacksonville, and you go to, like, it was a scuba store, and you take a class that shows you how to use a regulator. I mean, it's so simple, but you need that certification. So I had no idea, like, something like that. And then I got asked what I thought were very strange questions. So when you ask me how I got certain jobs, you cannot be afraid to publicly speak. If you're afraid to get out in front of a few people, you're going to have a tough time. Then you have to hire somebody who can, the art of the gab is very important. So when I was talking to, I think, 10 or 12 people at Haven Hospice, and one person raised their hand and said, do you demand or require cash? Before I said, huh? I was like, well, some of our drivers want cash up front before they do the ride. And I just was stunned. I had never heard of that. So one thing I would say to new people, for example, for most facilities and things, I give them billing, right? I do the rides. One facility wants every 2 weeks. Some people everyone. So you have to develop, either have a line of credit or something available, because you have to cover all that till that money comes in. Your accounts receivable will grow very quickly from 0 to 5,000 to 10,000 very, very fast. So you have to be able to float that in order to grow. Because if you say to the facility, well, I need to be paid up front, they're not made to do that. They don't have a pile of cash sitting around, or somebody to write checks for you for each ride. And that's what I find a lot of drivers and a lot of people don't understand. It's not like the private clients. I take their credit card, but I know some NEMT people charge prior to the ride. Somehow I just philosophically, and I'm looking at it as a customer, to get pre-charged for something that really is labor, I found uncomfortable with. So I do the job and then I charge. And I've gotten burnt once for like $60 and everybody else's card, because I got the information and whatnot. And I use the Bambi system. You got it all built in there, so it's pretty much a no-brainer. But you have to establish that that you can they can open an account, so to speak. I mean, you have to have that ability in order to grow. Because if you're going to be cash only, that's going to be a real block to your growth.
Yeah, and that's a really good insight. Nobody really talks so much about the payment collection, when, how to do it. But I mean, at the end of the day, that's probably the most critical piece of all of this, right?
Yeah, yeah. Even if you see that receivables are out there, that money's coming in eventually, right? So at least it kind of gives you that. And so your private people will obviously pay right away. And then if you decide to go full blown with brokers and with facilities, then you're going to have to wait. You're not going to get your money right away. So unless you're your own driver and you don't have an employee, you better, you have to have money to keep you going until that money starts rolling in, right? There's always that delay factor. And another thing you asked me what I did in the beginning, I didn't know anything much about brokers. So I Googled that, and there are a lot of brokers. So I checked which brokers are in Florida, and I essentially applied to almost all of them. Okay. And in the end, maybe 2 or 3 I get some good business out of, but that was another thing too. You spend the time, late nights, weekends, and they all ask for just tons of paperwork, but the juice is worth the squeeze because the broker fills in the dead times when you're not doing the private or you're not doing that high price structure. It still generates money, and you can pick and choose what you want to do.
Yeah, exactly. And again, like Bruce, you're one of the savviest business owners who uses Bambi, I find, and it's exactly what my other savvy customers say is use the brokers to fill in the gaps. Like, don't just say, hey, no broker work at all, right? I mean, it doesn't make sense.
No, you have to create multiple streams of income. I mean, in this NEMT business, is the way I see it, is private is one leg, right? And then you have facilities / hospitals is your second leg. And then your third leg of your stool is going to be brokers. So, this way, if 1 or 2 of them are a little slow, the other one can pick up and vice versa. You cannot, or you should not rely on just especially private. Private is very tough to build a steady clientele for a long period. I mean, I guess you can do that when you're in business for 10 years or so, but after 1 year, I do have repeat customers, but not enough to keep the lights on, if I didn't do other stuff.
Yeah. Well, Bruce, again, always great talking with you. The perspective that you bring, it really shows it's based on learning things the smart way, not necessarily the hard way. Like, use Howard Berkowitz's insights to
Howard, anybody who's listened to this, Howard Berkowitz, I mean, they can send you, I'm sure that they can send you an email and give him, but he is a gem. I got my policy and procedure manual from him. He has already pre-made contracts. I mean, there's just all these things that you never think about, and you just don't want to do it on ChatGPT. He's got it. No, really. And especially somebody who's just starting out, he is the man to be. And even for me, when I want to start expanding, he's already giving me ideas like how to do it. And I say to people too, as far as the website, you got to get Google reviews, right? I mean, that's really important. And a lot of the people we have driving right in the car, they're old and they have Yahoo and AOL accounts. So, I have this card that I give them with a little QR code. And, this way they can just do it with their phone and it pops up right to my website that, to give a review. And it makes it easier for them. And you just talk to them. Hey, you have to have a Gmail account? Yeah. And then you give them this and, they're like, I've never given a review before. So like, just give me 5 stars, put a few words in there. It makes a big difference. People do read those reviews.
The American dream is alive and well for people who are willing to put in the work. I love it, Bruce.
You need to put in the hustle. Yeah. And I started this one. I mean, I'm 61. So I started this when I was 59 and a half. So
I love it. It's like the KFC founder. I think he also
Yeah.
started around the same age.
Yeah, I'm actually having a lot of fun with this. It's kind of a fun business.
Yeah. What are the most fun parts about it?
The people I meet. I mean, there's such a variety. I mean, the stories I hear, you can't even repeat them, but they are just.
Well, Bruce, I'm going to ask you too. We're going to end on this note. Can you tell me one of the most interesting stories that you're willing to share?
Oh God. Wow. Well, just recently, we were supposed to take a gentleman from a hospital to his home. And we got there. The broker called me at the end of the day, right? He's like, can you do this? Sure. And I got him up on the price because I knew it was last minute. I got to the hospital and they all gave me the stink eye because they said, we've been waiting for you all day. And I was like, hey, whoa, time out. Like I got called 10 minutes ago. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, you're the good guy. So the guy in the, we put him in the stretcher. We're driving along. He's about 45 minutes away. And 20 minutes into the ride, he says, don't take me home. Like, where do you want to go? He goes, I wanted to go to that other place. And then he says, Ennius. And we're like, Ennius. And Fresenius is a chain of dialysis places around here, right? So we're like, oh, you want to go? Why do you want to go to the dialysis place? My golf cart is there. We're like, huh? Like, yeah, I drive my golf cart when I go to dialysis, and they took me from the dialysis to the hospital. So I want to go get my golf cart. So here we are. So we had to change where we going. And he goes, now make sure, he goes, it's the blue golf cart. And I looked at my driver. I'm like, what does this guy think? There's like a parking lot full of golf carts at the dialysis, right? So, but sure enough, we pull up and he gets out and he gets his bag from the hospital, finds his key, we wipe down his thing. He's still got some food in the back and he's got everything like he left it. We had to put his walker on there, all his stuff, stuck his key in there, started up, and he's like, you can't follow me home. I'm going to go this back way. And this dude just took off. I mean, I was like, how, who does this?
Amazing. This is great, Bruce.
Yeah, because some of you listen to, they're like, well, yeah, you kind of got it, and everybody wants to know. It's like,
no bullshit. Like, this is what it is. Like, I love it.
Well, I mean, I kept it civil, but I called it like I did what I told you I had to do. I mean, there was no everything I told you. I mean, actually, that's what I had to do.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, because it is very frustrating if you are a beginner and you listen to those podcasts and they're just very much like, I don't know, you don't really get a lot out of it. Like, we got into numbers, we got into goals, we got into a lot of different things, but that's what I told you, but I would have wanted to know. Just like I don't care about the number of rides, like that always bothers me. I see so many videos about like, get 10 rides a day, get 8 rides a day. I'm like, so what? Like, why does that matter? Like, that's not a good metric. And so I hope somebody catches that.
Oh, we're highlighting that part for sure.
Because, and what's really cool is that metric goes really well with your report function. Because, for example, if you want to compare month to month, I'll do like, say, last month from the 1st to the 11th, and I get a report. And you see how much gross you made, and then you do it for this month, and you can see, are you higher, lower, and it gives you kind of like a internal track. It's a great tool just to kind of see where, to go really fast, a real snapshot picture of like, am I doing better? Because that's the idea, right? Especially in the beginning. I mean, eventually you're gonna level out, but when you're new, it's a great way to compare. It's like, am I generating more income? It's so that report function makes it really easy to do.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear.
No, I mean it's something that, like I said, I just kind of I was like, oh, and I started trying it out, and but that's what I use it for. So I hope somebody gets something out of it, like, oh, okay, this is what it's like, because that's what it was like for me. SEO is like it's like holding on to Jello. It moves. It's all the time. Like
Yeah.
right? Remember at one time you had to pack keywords into everything, and now Google is like, no, it's a moving target, and you
Yeah.
really the website is critical. And luckily, most NEMT people, their websites suck. You could tell they use WordPress, and they haven't done anything to it for years. They don't nurture it. They don't. You can tell it's old. And yeah, and my big competitor, that's what their website was like. And when mine came up, like 3 months later, they spruced up their own website.
Interestingly now, a lot of customers, or some customers, are finding us through Chat GPT and those kind of tools. So it's like the AI optimization game rather than the search engine optimization game only.
Yeah, I was mentioned actually. I did a question. I forgot what it was, and the AI said, a non-emergency. I think I was looking to see something about Medicare, or somebody asked me if Medicare covers it, and it was explaining it to me, and it put General Hard Transport as a sample. I mean, obviously it knows it's me, right? It's ChatGPT, but still, it was kind of cool. I was like, dang, uh, no, right? I mean,
Yeah, it's amazing.
yeah, and I do see you getting definitely more name recognition, because when people ask me, like even a year ago when they said what software are you using, I said Bambi. They go, who? What? Now it's definitely I don't get much of that anymore.
Yeah.
They know of you.
Yeah. I mean, this past year and a half has just been exponential growth for us. Like when you came on, I don't know, you must have been within our first like 30 customers. And now we're at like 350
Yeah,
something.
it's great. It's awesome. Yeah, because Howard, I never would have known about you if it wasn't for Howard,
Yeah.
because generally in searches you didn't show up. Like you had all these big names, and I was about to do that, and Howard's like, you don't need all that crap. And that was another thing we didn't get into, but like that's another whole episode you could talk about, like getting talked out of overspending, especially in the beginning. You don't need all that stuff. And you didn't talk about it, but I think you should. You're like, uh, at $69 a vehicle a month. I mean, and that's everything. There's no hidden fees, no nothing. That is a really great model. And like when I was shopping around, they start off like, oh, only $50 a month. But, if you want this feature, it's another 30 a month. And that's how they do it. They hook you in, right? But, and it's all these add-ons. And again, a beginner will not know that, and they'll take the names that come up on the search engines, and a lot of the places, they're tied into it. So it'd be great if you, in your own podcast, that you like, toot your own horn.
Yeah. I mean, we're still recording. I could include this part
Oh,
in.
yeah. No, it just it's seriously for anybody starting in the NEMT business. That's all I know, because I don't have 100 vehicles. But Bambi is more than sufficient. You can grow with Bambi. You can develop with Bambi. You're responsive, and I wasn't kidding. It's like when you call Nira or you text him, it's like day or night, you're almost there. And your customer service, they get right back on it. You've actually made adjustments to the software. When you thought I asked you something and you thought it was a good idea, you immediately implemented it, which I thought was really cool. But that is a big difference. Don't get talked into some of these other software packages that sound real cheap, but then they nickel and dime you to death. Now, really, Bambi is a huge advantage, because that's a fixed expense. You don't have to worry about it every month. It's going to be $69 a vehicle, and that's just, you don't have to worry. You're not getting charged per ride and extra for this and texting fees and all that stuff. I mean, it's a huge relief, and it's easy to use. It works. I I'm so happy that Howard, sent me to you.
Run, Bambi, run.
Run, baby, run.
Awesome.